Welcome to my channel.
Channel that contains real stories that exist around us. Enjoy watching. The night I first saw the hollow house, the moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and the road stretched endlessly through the forest. My car's headlights barely pierced the mist that seemed to grow heavier the closer I got. The house sat alone on a hill, its wooden frame leaning as if it had been trying to collapse for years, but never quite succeeded. The front porch sagged, the windows were black voids, and the wind made the loose shutters bang in a slow, unsettling rhythm. I was there because of a call from my cousin Evan, who'd inherited the place from our great-uncle. His voice on the phone had been shaky. "I need you here, Jake. This house, it's not empty. Please." When I arrived, the front door was already open. Inside, the air was stale and heavy, smelling faintly of rot and damp wood. My flashlight beam revealed peeling wallpaper, furniture draped in dusty sheets, and hallways that seemed longer than the house should allow. "Evan," I called out. My voice sounded small in the vast silence. From upstairs came a creak, not the ordinary sound of an old house settling. No, this was deliberate. Slow. One step. Pause. Another step. I climbed the stairs, each one groaning under my weight. At the top, the hallway stretched farther than I remembered from the outside view. At the very end stood Evan, pale and wide-eyed. "Jake." "Don't look at them," he whispered. "Look at who?" I asked. But before he could answer, the lights flickered violently and then died, plunging us into complete darkness. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not ours. Something else was in the hallway, inches from my face. The breathing was slow, raspy, and wet, as though the thing inhaling had lungs filled with stagnant water. My flashlight refused to turn on. The air around me felt thick, almost syrupy, and a cold, invisible weight pressed against my chest. "Jake," Evan's voice cracked. "Don't move, it's right in front of you." A voice, not quite human, spoke from the dark. It sounded like several people speaking at once, all out of sync. "We see you." I felt a brush of something coarse against my cheek like hair, though I knew no one was that close. Every instinct told me to run, but my feet were rooted in place. Evan grabbed my wrist and yanked me toward a side door at the end of the hall. We stumbled inside a small room lit by a single, flickering bulb. It buzzed weakly, the only light in a sea of black. "They don't like light," he said, slamming the door shut. I finally caught my breath. "Who are they?" Evan swallowed hard. "They're not alive. This house, it keeps them. It's been feeding them for decades." A thud hit the door, then another, slow, steady, as if something on the other side was testing the barrier. The bulb above us flickered faster, each flash revealing something wrong. Shadows on the walls that didn't match our bodies, shifting shapes with long limbs and faces that stretched too wide to be human. "They're not in the shadows, Jake," Evan whispered. "They are the shadows." Suddenly the light went out completely, and in that perfect blackness dozens of whispering voices bloomed all around us. "You shouldn't have come here." The whispers swelled into laughter, dry, rattling, and hollow. Something scraped along the floor, circling us in the dark. I fumbled for my phone, but the screen wouldn't light. It was dead, even though I'd charged it fully before leaving. Evan's hand clamped on my shoulder. "We can't stay here. The longer we're in one place, the closer they get." We pushed the door open and stepped back into the hallway. It was different now, narrower, the walls warped and bulging as if something inside was pushing outward. I realized with a cold spike of dread that the house was breathing. The wallpaper pulsed gently, and the floor swelled beneath my feet with each inhale. We hurried toward the stairs, but they were gone, replaced by a blank wall of splintered wood. The air stank of mold and iron. "They're changing it," Evan said, panic flaring in his voice. The house shifts. It doesn't want us to leave. Somewhere behind us, soft feet padded across the warped floor. I turned, and in the dim light from a cracked window, I saw them. 4 shapes impossibly tall, heads tilting in jerky movements, their faces smooth and featureless, except for the mouths. The mouths, too wide, stretching ear to ear, filled with rows of jagged teeth. They stood still for a heartbeat. Then they rushed forward. We bolted into the nearest door, slamming it shut just as the things hit the other side. The wood shuddered under their weight. The room we'd entered was a kitchen, or what had once been one. Every surface was covered in a black, tar-like residue that dripped slowly to the floor. The sink was full of murky water, and in it floated objects I couldn't quite identify, until one turned over and I saw a human jawbone. Evan backed away, breathing hard. "It feeds here," he muttered. "Everything the house swallows ends up here." The pounding on the door stopped. Silence. I felt a momentary relief, until I noticed the shadows in the corners stretching toward us like fingers. They slithered across the floor, curling around my shoes. "Move!" Evan shouted, grabbing my arm. We sprinted to the opposite door, bursting into another hallway. The ceiling above us groaned, dust falling like ash. Somewhere in the house, a low, drawn-out moan reverberated, deep enough to make my teeth ache. The house wasn't just alive, it was hungry. We finally found the front door, or what should have been it. Instead of wood and glass, we faced a wall of fleshy, pulsating material, warm to the touch. It throbbed slowly, as if it had its own heartbeat. Evan's face twisted in terror. "It sealed us in. There's only one way out now." "What way?" I demanded. He swallowed hard. "Through the attic, that's where it's weakest, but—" He hesitated. "That's also where it keeps the ones it's already taken." We climbed the stairs that shouldn't have been there before, into the choking heat of the attic. It was worse than I'd imagined. The space was lined with cocoon-like shapes, each one vaguely human-sized, wrapped in something that looked like spider silk, but shimmered wetly in the dim light. Some of them moved. Whispers seeped from inside the cocoons. Not words, just desperate, mindless murmurs. Evan pointed to a small, half-rotted window at the far end. "That's our exit." We ran for it, but halfway across, every cocoon began to rip open. Pale hands and eyeless faces emerged, all of them smiling with those impossible mouths. And behind them, the shadows we'd been running from poured into the room like a flood.